The silver dagger meant for her heart stopped inches from Kira's chest, held back by the trembling hand of the man who was supposed to love her forever. "I can't do it," Theron whispered, his voice breaking as he dropped the ceremonial blade. "But I can't keep you either." The Crimson Moon ceremony was supposed to be Kira Ashworth's triumph. After 3 years of devotion to Theron Blackwater, after proving herself worthy despite being a lowborn wolf with questionable bloodlines, tonight should have sealed their bond forever. Instead, she stood in the sacred circle of the Silver Pine Pack, watching her entire world crumble. "I, Theron Blackwater, heir to the Eastern Territories, sever my claim on Kira Ashworth before the moon and our ancestors." His words cut deeper than any blade could have. Around them, hundreds of pack members watched in stunned silence, their faces painted crimson by the moon's unnatural glow. Kira's knees buckled as the pre-bond between them shattered. It wasn't a full mate bond that would have required the ceremony's completion, but even this partial connection's destruction sent agony racing through her veins. She tasted copper where she'd bitten through her lip, fighting to remain standing. "Theron, why?" Her voice came out raw, desperate. "What did I do, Precious?" "Show her, Theron." The honeyed voice belonged to Versa Goldmane, the pack healer's daughter, who'd returned just last week from training in the Northern Citadel. She glided forward, her pearl-white dress pristine against the forest floor. "She deserves to know the truth." Versa produced a crystal vial filled with swirling black liquid. Even from a distance, Kira could smell the wrongness of it, wolfsbane mixed with something far more sinister. "We found this in your dwelling," Versa announced, loud enough for all to hear. "Shadow poison. The same toxin that killed Elder Miriam last month." "That's impossible." Kira's wolf snarled beneath her skin, recognizing the trap for what it was. "I've never seen that before in my life." "I saw you brewing it," Versa continued, tears sliding down her perfect cheeks. "Behind the healer's cottage, 3 nights ago." I didn't want to believe it, but when Theron asked me to investigate Elder Miriam's death, the crowd's silence transformed into angry mutters. Elder Miriam had been beloved, a grandmother to the entire pack. Her mysterious illness and death had left everyone grieving and desperate for answers. "She's lying!" Kira spun to face Theron, seeing the doubt poisoning his silver eyes. "You know me. You know I would never." "Do I?" Theron's voice turned cold. "You always were secretive about your past, about where you came from before joining our pack." The accusation hit like a physical blow. Yes, she'd been found half dead at their borders 3 years ago, with no memory of her life before. But Theron had promised it didn't matter, that their future together was all that counted. "You ungrateful wretch." Alpha Roderick Silverpine stepped forward, his ancient power making the air itself grow heavy. "I took you in when you were nothing, gave you a place in our pack, and this is how you repay us?" "I didn't poison anyone." Kira's protest rang hollow against their closed faces. "The evidence is damning," Roderick continued. "The penalty for murder would typically be death. However," his lips curled with distaste, "an opportunity has presented itself. Siomaras." A murmur rippled through the crowd as a figure in royal blue stepped forward, a messenger who'd arrived during the ceremony's chaos process. "The Northern Citadel has demanded a bride for their new Alpha King," the messenger announced. "Someone expendable. Abitanal Elaman. Abitanal Elaman. Insedimd action story." Kira's blood turned to ice. Everyone knew about the scarred Alpha Fenris Nightfang, who'd seized power through bloodshed and ruled through fear. Rumors said his face was so mutilated from countless battles that he wore a mask to spare others from the sight. "No pack has been willing to sacrifice their daughters," Roderick said coldly. "But a poisoner that would satisfy the treaty while ridding us of a murderer. I'm innocent." Kira's protest fell on deaf ears. As guards moved to flank her, she caught Versa's satisfied smirk when she thought no one was looking. This had been planned, orchestrated to perfection. Pow. But why? What had she done to earn such hatred? Procraption. "You have 1 hour to gather your belongings," Roderick commanded. At dawn, you'll be transported to the Citadel. The walk to her small dwelling felt like a funeral march. Pack members who'd smiled at her yesterday now spat at her feet. Children were yanked away from her path as if she carried plague. In her cottage, Kira mechanically packed her few possessions. A soft knock interrupted her. When she opened the door, it was Vera, one of the elderly Omega wolves. Quickly, child. Vera pressed a small leather pouch into Kira's hands. Moonbell petals. They'll ease the journey's sickness. You believe I'm innocent? Vera's weathered face was grim. I know Versa Goldmane's scent, and I smelled it all over that cottage where they claim you brewed poison. But my word means nothing against the healer's daughter. Why would she do this? Power takes many forms, child. The scarred alpha may be a monster, but even monsters can sometimes see truth where others choose blindness. As dawn approached, armored guards in the Citadel's obsidian and silver colors arrived. Their leader, a scarred woman with cold eyes, looked Kira up and down. The poisoner? I'm innocent. They all say that. The guard gestured to a reinforced prison wagon. 3 days' journey to the Citadel. Try to escape, and we'll deliver your corpse instead. As the wagon rolled away from Silverpine territory, Kira caught one last glimpse of the ceremonial circle. Theron stood with Versa, their hands intertwined. The truth hit her, then she'd never been meant to complete the mating ceremony. She'd been a placeholder, keeping Theron occupied until Versa returned. The murder accusation was just convenient disposal. But as the forest gave way to unfamiliar territory, something strange stirred in Kira's chest. Not pain or despair, but something else, a pull, faint but insistent, drawing her north. Toward the scarred alpha. Toward a fate that might be worse than death, or might be something else entirely. The Northern Citadel rose from the mountainside like a wound in the earth itself. Black stone towers pierced the perpetual storm clouds that shrouded the fortress, while bridges of obsidian glass connected the various levels in a dizzying web. Even from miles away, Kira could feel the oppressive weight of dark magic that clung to the place. Impressive, isn't it? Captain Rena, the scarred guard who'd collected her, guided her prison wagon through the fortress's outer gates. They say Alpha Fenris built half of it with his bare hands after he took power. The other half was constructed from the bones of his enemies. Kira remained silent, her wrists raw from the silver shackles they'd insisted on despite her lack of resistance. 3 days of travel had given her too much time to think about what awaited her. Every traveler they'd passed had the same reaction when they saw the Citadel's colors: fear, followed by deliberate avoidance. The main courtyard was a study in military precision. Warriors trained in perfect synchronization, their movements lethal poetry. Unlike the casual hierarchy of Silverpine Pack, here everyone moved with purpose, with the awareness that weakness meant death. Out! Rena commanded as the wagon stopped before massive iron doors. The Alpha King doesn't like to be kept waiting. Kira stumbled on numb legs, the shackles making grace impossible. The warriors in the courtyard paused their training to watch, their expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. She heard whispers following her path. Another bride. How long do you think this one will last? I give her 3 days before she runs screaming. The throne room doors opened with a groan that seemed to come from the mountain itself. Inside, darkness reigned despite hundreds of torches lining the walls. The flames cast dancing shadows that made the carved wolf motifs appear to move and snarl. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single massive obsidian stone, sat the scarred Alpha. Fenris Nightfang was enormous even while seated. Where Theron had been lean and elegant, this Alpha was built for war: broad shoulders, thick muscle, hands that could crush a throat without effort. He wore all black, from his leather armor to the fur cloak draped over his shoulders. But it was his face that made Kira's breath catch. The left side was a ruin of scar tissue, as if fire and claw had competed to destroy it. His left eye was milky white, clearly blind, while the right gleamed amber gold with predatory intelligence. No mask covered the devastation. He wore his scars like a challenge to anyone who dared look upon him. The Silverpine offering. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. somehow beautiful despite coming from that ravaged throat. Approach. Approach. Rena shoved Kira forward. She caught herself before falling, chin rising despite her circumstances. If she was going to die here, she'd do it with dignity. Each step toward the throne felt like walking through thick honey. Power radiated from the scarred alpha in waves that made her wolf whimper and submit without her consent. This wasn't just an alpha. This was something more, something ancient and terrible. She stopped at the foot of the throne, meeting his good eye without flinching from his scars. "Your name?" he asked. "Kira Ashworth." "Your crime?" "I was falsely accused of poisoning an elder." His head tilted slightly. "A predator's interest. All who come here claim innocence." "Then you're used to hearing the truth." A sound that might have been amusement rumbled from his chest. "Tell me, Kira Ashworth, do you know why the Southern Packs send me their discarded daughters?" "Because they fear you." "Yes." He rose from his throne, and Kira had to crane her neck to maintain eye contact. Standing, he towered over her by more than a foot. "They fear me because I united the Northern Packs through bloodshed, because I broke centuries of tradition, because I survive what should kill me." He descended the throne steps with fluid grace that belied his massive size. "But mostly, they fear me because they need me. The northern borders hold back creatures that would devour their soft southern territories in a heartbeat, so they send me tributes. Brides. Gifts, to appease the monster who guards their doors." He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell him pine smoke, winter steel, and something wild that made her wolf stir with confused interest. "Usually, these brides are weak things. Youngest daughters or political embarrassments. They look at my face and weep. They beg. Pride. They offer anything to be sent home." His good eye studied her with unnerving intensity. "You don't weep. Tears won't change my fate." "No, they won't." He circled her slowly. "A wolf evaluating prey. Silverpine claims you're a poisoner, claims you killed with shadow toxin. Silverpine lies, perhaps. Or perhaps you're exactly the kind of killer I need in my court." He completed his circuit, stopping before her again. "Play. Tell me, little wolf, can you fight?" "I can survive." "Not the same thing. In the north, we don't simply survive. We conquer or we die." He gestured to Rena. "Remove her shackles." The captain hesitated. "Alpha. Now." The silver fell away, and Kira's wolf surged forward, grateful for freedom. She rubbed her raw wrists, watching the scarred alpha warily. "You have two choices," he said. "Accept your place as my bride, with all the duties and dangers that entails, or face trial by combat for your alleged crimes. Win, and you're free to go where you will. Lose, and your body feeds the mountain ravens." "What kind of combat?" His smile revealed teeth too sharp to be fully human. "Against me." The throne room fell silent. Even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. "That's not a choice," Kira said quietly. "That's execution with extra steps." "Yes." She thought of Vera's words, about monsters sometimes seeing truth. Looking at Fenris Nightfang, she saw a monster, certainly. But she also saw something else in that golden eye, a glimmer of respect for her defiance, perhaps even curiosity. "If I accept the position of bride," she said carefully, "what exactly would be required of me?" "You would hold the title of Alpha Queen. You would stand beside me in all things: war councils, pack disputes, border defenses, powers. You would be expected to fight when necessary, to show no weakness before our enemies." He paused. "And you would share my bed. Though I won't force that particular duty. I have no interest in unwilling partners, poisoning." "Then Silverpine's loss is the Citadel's gain." Kira weighed her options. Death in combat against an alpha who'd united the northern packs through violence, or life as bride to the same monster. Neither appealed, but one at least offered the possibility of eventual escape. "I need until dawn to decide." "You have until dawn." His tone brooked no argument. "Rena will show you to quarters befitting your potential status." You're free to move within the Citadel, but attempt to flee, and I'll hunt you down myself. Clue. And if other packs come claiming I'm a criminal? His scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile on anyone else. Then they'll learn what happens when someone tries to take what's mine. The possessive note in his voice sent an unexpected shiver down her spine, not entirely from fear. I haven't agreed to be yours yet, she reminded him. No, he agreed, turning back to his throne. But you will. His certainty should have enraged her. Instead, as Rena led her from the throne room, Kira found herself oddly intrigued. The scarred alpha was nothing like she'd expected. Dangerous, yes. Terrifying, certainly. But there was intelligence in that golden eye, a complexity that the rumors hadn't suggested. As they climbed winding stairs to what would be her temporary quarters, Kira caught herself thinking that perhaps being bride to a monster was better than being murdered by those who'd pretended to love her. Or perhaps the northern air was already affecting her judgment. Either way, she had until dawn to decide her fate. The quarters Rena showed her to were nothing like Kira had expected. Instead of a dungeon cell or servant's closet, she found herself in a suite that would have housed visiting royalty in Silverpine. Rich tapestries covered stone walls, a fireplace crackled with warmth, and the bed was larger than her entire cottage had been. This can't be right, Kira said, running her fingers over silk pillows that probably cost more than her life was worth. Rena's scarred face showed something like sympathy. The Alpha King's bride, even a temporary one, is second only to him in status. These are actually the modest quarters. If you accept permanently, you'll be moved to the Queen's Tower. There must be some mistake. I'm a prisoner. You're a potential Alpha Queen. Rena's tone was matter of fact. Until you choose otherwise, you'll be treated as such. Dinner will be brought shortly. Tomorrow. If you're still here, you'll be expected at the dawn training. Training? Every member of this pack trains, from the youngest pup to the oldest elder. The Alpha King believes comfort breeds weakness. Rena paused at the door. A word of advice? Don't mention your alleged crimes to anyone. As far as this pack is concerned, you're here because the Alpha chose you. The why doesn't matter. Alone, Kira explored her temporary domain. The bathroom held a tub large enough to swim in, with hot water that seemed to flow endlessly from silver taps. She hadn't had a proper bath in days, maybe weeks if she was honest about Silverpine's limited resources. As she sank into the steaming water, muscles she didn't know were tense began to relax. The bath salts smelled of mountain herbs, sharp and clean. For a moment, she could almost forget she was in the fortress of the infamous scarred Alpha. A knock interrupted her peace. Enter, she called, expecting servants with dinner. Instead, a woman her own age peered around the door. Where Kira was tall and lean, this woman was petite and curved, with striking violet eyes and silver-streaked black hair. Oh good, you're not crying. The woman entered without further invitation, plopping onto a cushioned chair. The last 3 brides spent their first night sobbing. It was terribly annoying. The last 3? Lord Fenris has been Alpha King for 2 years. You're bride number 7. She grinned at Kira's expression. Don't worry, he didn't kill them. Well, not directly. 2 ran off. 1 threw herself from the moon tower. 3 died in training accidents. And 1 actually made it a whole month before deciding she'd rather face exile than stay. That's not reassuring. I'm Nyx, by the way. Pack historian and the Alpha's cousin, though we're not close. I volunteered to check on you because I have a bet going with Captain Rena. A bet? She thinks you'll run before dawn. I think you'll stay. You've got spine, I can tell. Plus you didn't faint when you saw his face. Kira pulled her knees to her chest in the large tub. Is he really as terrible as they say? Nyx considered this. Define terrible. He killed his way to power? Yes. He shows no mercy to enemies? Absolutely. He's turned the northern packs from scattered tribes into a military force that makes southern kings nervous? Definitely. She tilted her head. But he's also the reason we're not all dead from ice wraith attacks. He's the one who established supply lines so pups don't starve in winter anymore. He judges based on merit, not bloodline. You sound like you admire him. I respect him. There's a difference. Nick stood, moving to examine the clothing in the wardrobe. The staff brought these up, northern styles, so you'll need time to adjust. We favor leather and fur over the silk nonsense you southerners wear, Port. I'm not a southerner. I don't know what I am. Nix paused, looking at her with those unsettling violet eyes. No past before Silverpine? Nothing. I woke up at their borders 3 years ago with no memories before that moment. Interesting. Nix pulled out a black leather outfit. Very interesting. And they accused you of poisoning? I was framed. The healer's daughter. Wanted your mail. Yes. That's an old story. Nix laid the clothing on the bed. Here's the thing about the North, Kira. We don't care about your past. We care about your strength. Prove yourself useful, and no one will question where you came from. A servant arrived with dinner, not the simple fare Kira expected, but a feast that could feed 5. Roasted meat, winter vegetables, fresh bread, and even honey cakes for dessert. The alpha eats simply, the elderly servant explained, but he insists his bride have the best. After Nix left and dinner was cleared, Kira stood on her balcony looking out over the citadel. The moon was rising, not crimson like the ceremony night, but pure silver. Below, she could see warriors still training by torchlight. The pull she'd felt in the prison wagon was stronger here. Something in her chest tugged insistently northward, deeper into the fortress. Her wolf, usually skittish around powerful alphas, seemed curious rather than afraid. A howl split the night air, long, mournful, and so full of loneliness it made her chest ache. She knew instinctively it was Fenris. The sound spoke of loss, of isolation, of burdens carried alone for too long. Without conscious thought, her own howl rose to answer it. Where his was sorrow, hers was understanding. Where his spoke of darkness, hers offered companionship in the shadows. The night fell silent. Then, impossibly, she heard footsteps on her balcony. She spun to find the scarred alpha standing there, though her rooms were 3 stories up with no visible means of access. You answered, he said, his voice rough with something she couldn't name. It seemed rude not to. He stepped closer, into the light spilling from her rooms. This close, she could see his scars were worse than she'd thought. Whatever had maimed him had been thorough. But his good eye held such intensity it was hard to look away. Do you know what you just did? He asked. Howled back. You acknowledged an alpha's call. In the north, that has meaning. Her heart skipped. I didn't know. I'm not angry. He moved to the balcony's edge, looking out over his domain. Merely surprised. Most find my howl. Unsettling. It's lonely, she said without thinking. Like you're calling for something that never answers. His shoulders tensed. And what would a southern wolf know of loneliness? Everything. The word came out harder than intended. I know what it's like to be surrounded by people and still be utterly alone. To be tolerated but never truly wanted. To search for a home that doesn't exist. He turned to study her. Is that why you didn't weep when you saw me? Because you recognize a fellow monster. You're not a monster. No? He gestured to his ruined face. Then what am I? Wounded, she said simply, but still standing. Something flickered in his eye, surprise, perhaps, or recognition. You're not what I expected from Silverpine's reject. Maybe because I was never really theirs to reject. They stood in comfortable silence, 2 damaged souls, finding unexpected companionship in the darkness. Finally, Fenris stepped back. Dawn comes early. If you're still here, training begins at first light. I'll be here. He paused at whatever invisible edge he'd used to reach her balcony. Why? You could run tonight. I might even let you go. Kira thought about it, really considered fleeing into the night. But where would she go? Back to a pack that had betrayed her? Into the wilderness alone? Because for the first time in 3 years, she said quietly, Someone looked at me and saw something other than a convenient target or a problem to solve. What did I see? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. He left without another word, vanishing into the shadows as if they'd swallowed him whole. But his presence lingered, along with a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the fireplace. As she prepared for bed in silk sheets finer than anything she'd ever touched, Kira realized the truth. She'd expected to find herself at rock bottom here, a prisoner in all but name. Instead, she'd found something else entirely possibility. Dawn in the Northern Citadel came like a slap of cold water. Kira jolted awake to the sound of howls, not mournful like last night's, but sharp, commanding. Pack summons. She dressed quickly in the leather outfit Nyx had selected, grateful for its warmth against the mountain chill. The fitted pants and reinforced tunic felt strange after years of simple dresses, but they allowed for movement in ways her silver pine clothes never had. The training grounds were already crowded when she arrived. Warriors of all ages warmed up with synchronized movements, their breath steaming in the frigid air. What struck her most wasn't their skill, though that was impressive, but their diversity. Where Silverpine had been exclusively wolf-born, here she saw humans training alongside shifters, men and women treated as equals. You came. Captain Rena appeared at her elbow, approval in her scarred features. The Alpha will be pleased. Where is he? Rena pointed to the far end of the grounds, where a cluster of elite warriors circled something or someone. Testing the new recruits. It's tradition. As Kira approached, the crowd parted. In the center, Fenris fought 3 opponents simultaneously, moving with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for someone his size. He wore only training pants, his scarred torso a map of survived violence. But it wasn't his skill that made her freeze. It was the pattern of his movement, the way he favored certain strikes, the rhythm of his breathing. She'd seen it before, not exactly the same, but similar enough to trigger something deep in her lost memories. A flash of recognition hands teaching her these same movements, a voice saying, "Remember, little moon, strength means nothing without strategy." The memory fragment vanished as quickly as it came, leaving her gasping. Kira. Fenris had noticed her arrival, dispatching his 3 opponents with swift efficiency. "Join me." The crowd murmured as she stepped into the circle. She was aware of their stares, their curiosity about the new bride who'd answered their alpha's howl. "Have you trained before?" Fenris asked, circling her slowly. "Not formally." The lie came easily. She couldn't explain the muscle memory her body possessed, the knowledge that felt both foreign and familiar. "Then let's see what instinct teaches you." He struck without warning, a testing blow rather than a serious attack. Her body moved before her mind caught up, deflecting his strike and countering with one of her own. Persen. He blocked it easily, but she caught the flicker of surprise in his eye. They exchanged a flurry of blows, and with each movement, more memories surfaced. Not full scenes, just fragments, the scent of summer grass, laughter mixing with the clash of practice weapons, someone calling her name, but not Kira. Something else. Fenris increased his speed and power, pushing her harder. She matched him move for move, her body remembering what her mind had forgotten. When he feinted left, she read the deception. When he tried to use his size advantage, she used speed and flexibility to evade. Enough. He stepped back, breathing harder than their brief bout warranted. His good eye blazed with something between suspicion and wonder. "Where did you really come from?" "I told you, I don't remember." "Your body remembers." He gestured to her stance, still perfectly balanced for combat. "That's Northern training. Old Northern. Styles that haven't been taught in decades." The crowd had gone silent, sensing the tension between them. "Clear the grounds," Fenris commanded. All except the bride. Warriors, scattered like leaves before a storm. Within moments, they stood alone in the vast training space. "My grandmother," Fenris said slowly, "was the last to teach those forms. She died 20 years ago, taking her secrets with her." "So tell me, Kira Ashworth, how does a woman with no memories fight like a ghost from my past?" "I don't know." Frustration bled into her voice. Don't you think I'd tell you if I knew? I woke up 3 years ago, with nothing. No past, no name, no understanding of why my body could do things. My mind didn't remember learning. He moved closer, his nostrils flaring. May I? She nodded, unsure what he was asking until he buried his face in her neck, inhaling deeply. The intimacy of it should have been disturbing, but her wolf practically purred at the contact. Impossible. He breathed against her skin. What? He pulled back, his expression unreadable. Follow me. Tell no one. He led her through passages she hadn't known existed, deep into the mountain's heart. The walls changed from worked stone to natural cave, and the air grew thick with age and secrets. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber lit by phosphorescent moss. The walls were covered in paintings, wolves in various forms, ceremonies, battles. But it was the central mural that made her knees weak. A family portrait, painted in the old style. A massive man with kind eyes, a woman whose strength showed in every line, and between them. That's me, Kira whispered, staring at the child who bore her exact features, down to the unusual silver streak in her dark hair. That's Luna Blackmoon, Fenris corrected. Daughter of Alpha Marcus, Blackmoon and his mate Celine, my grandmother's prize student. She died in the massacre 18 years ago, along with her entire pack. No. The words scraped her throat. I'm not. I can't be. The Blackmoon pack was destroyed by Silverpine wolves, a territorial dispute that escalated to slaughter. No survivors, they said. His laugh was bitter. But someone survived, didn't she? Someone who was found at Silverpine's borders 3 years ago with no memories. The truth hit her like a physical blow. She'd been living among her family's killers, loving one of them, planning to mate with him. I think I'm going to be sick. Fenris caught her as her knees buckled, his arms surprisingly gentle. The memory loss trauma can do that, the mind's way of protecting itself. Theron. The name tasted like ash. His father led the raid. He would have been old enough to participate. Yes. Did he know? When I arrived, did he recognize me? I doubt it. You would have been a child during the massacre. But someone might have suspected. Someone who needed you gone before you remembered. Versa. The healer's daughter who'd just returned from the Northern Citadel. Who'd known exactly how to frame her, exactly which buttons to push, Kira Luna said, with sudden certainty. Versa discovered who I was and needed me gone before I remembered and sought revenge. Revenge. Fenris tested the word. Is that what you want? She thought about it, waiting for rage to come. Instead, she felt only a hollow ache where her stolen past should be. I want to remember. I want to know who I was, who my parents were. I want. She met his eye. I want to understand why I feel safe here when I should be terrified. The Blackmoons were our allies. Your mother and mine were sworn sisters. You would have visited here as a child, trained with me before. He touched his scarred face unconsciously. Before what happened to you. That's a story for another day. He helped her stand, keeping one hand on her elbow to steady her. What matters now is that you're not who anyone thought you were. You're not Kira Ashworth, Silverpine reject. You're Luna Blackmoon, last heir of a noble pack. I don't feel noble. I feel lost. Quote, then let me help you find yourself. The offer was quietly made but sincere. Stay. Not as a bride forced by circumstance, but as an ally recovering her birthright. And if I remember things that change everything, then we face those changes together. He paused. If you'll have me as an ally. Standing in that ancient chamber, surrounded by the faces of her dead family, Luna made her choice, not the desperate acceptance of a condemned prisoner, but the deliberate alliance of equals with shared purpose. Yes, she said, but I have conditions. His scarred face shifted into what might have been amusement. Already making demands? First, I need access to any records about the Blackmoon pack. Second, I want to continue training to remember what my body knows. Third, she took a breath. When I'm ready, I want to know what happened to you. Why the alpha I trained with as a child became the scarred king. Agreed. He held out his hand. Warrior to warrior. Shall we shock everyone by returning together? As they made their way back through the secret passages, Luna felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking into place. Her lost past, her unexpected haven here, the pull she felt toward Fenris. It all had roots in a history stolen by trauma and betrayal. But she was done being anyone's victim. It was time to reclaim what was hers. Even if it meant embracing the monster everyone feared, and perhaps discovering he wasn't a monster at all. The revelation of Luna's identity changed everything and nothing. Fenris had agreed to keep her secret. For now, the last thing either of them needed was Silverpine learning a Blackmoon heir survived. But within the Citadel, word spread that the new bride had lasted not only her first night, but had matched the alpha in combat. "Show me again," Nyx demanded, practically bouncing with excitement as they stood in the Pax library. The Moonwheel Defense grandmother used to talk about it, but I've never seen it properly executed. Luna moved through the forms slowly, her body remembering more each day. 3 weeks had passed since she discovered her identity, and with each sunset, new fragments of memory surfaced. "Your center of gravity is wrong," a gruff voice corrected. "Drop your shoulder." Luna turned to find a weathered woman watching from the doorway. Elder Kess moved with the careful precision of age, but her eyes were sharp as any blade. "You knew my mother," Luna said. It wasn't a question. She'd seen Kess's face in the memorial paintings, trained under her for 5 winters. Kess entered the library proper, her cane tapping against stone. "You have her stubbornness. Also, her tendency to overthink simple movements." For the first time in memory, Luna felt tears threaten. Here was someone who'd known her family, who could fill the gaps trauma had stolen. "I don't remember her." "Then let me remember for you." Kess settled into a chair with obvious relief. Celine Blackmoon could make the proudest alpha submit with a glance. Power. But she'd also spend hours teaching pups to track rabbits, patient as spring rain. Others began filtering into the library, drawn by curiosity or perhaps Nyx's complete inability to keep secrets. Soon, Luna found herself surrounded by pack members, each contributing stories or corrections to her recovered techniques. "The grip is too high. Blackmoon's always favored a lower hold for better leverage." Quote, No. The follow-through should flow like water, not strike like lightning. "My grandfather served under Alpha Marcus, said he could track a ghost through a blizzard." What struck Luna most wasn't their knowledge, but their warmth. These weren't the formal interactions she'd grown accustomed to in Silverpine, where hierarchy ruled every conversation. Here, a century-old elder argued technique with a teenage warrior, and both voices carried equal weight. "Enough theory," Captain Renna declared, striding into the increasingly crowded library. "Time for practical application." The group moved to the smaller, private training ground reserved for elite warriors. What followed was less formal instruction and more joyful chaos, as pack members demonstrated their interpretations of Blackmoon techniques, argued about historical accuracy, and shared increasingly outlandish war stories. "You're all wrong." Fenris's voice cut through the debate about proper sword angles. He stood at the entrance, having arrived silently despite his size. The Blackmoon style emphasized adaptation over rigid form. "Luna, show them the water stance." She moved without thinking, her body flowing into a position that felt as natural as breathing. Fenris stepped onto the training ground, taking a complimentary stance. "Attack me," he commanded. "Like your mother taught you." "I don't remember." Point. "Your body remembers. Trust it." What followed was less sparring match and more deadly dance. They moved together with a synchronicity that made the pack murmur in appreciation. When Luna struck, Fenris flowed around her attack. When he pressed forward, she redirected his strength against him. "Sweet goddess," Elder Kess breathed. "Just like their parents." Luna faltered, the words breaking her concentration. Fenris caught her before she could fall, his hands steady on her waist. "Our parents?" she asked. "They trained together as youths," Kess explained. "Before responsibilities and distance separated them, Watching you two now, it's like seeing ghosts dance. Heat flooded Luna's cheeks, suddenly aware of how close Fenris held her, how natural it felt to move in perfect harmony with him. Again, she said, stepping back to proper distance. I want to remember more. They trained until sunset, the pack offering suggestions, corrections, and encouragement in equal measure. By the time they finished, Luna's muscles ached, but her spirit soared. This was what Silverpine had never given her, not just acceptance, but belonging. Dinner, Nix announced. Kitchen staff gets cranky if we're late. The Great Hall was nothing like Silverpine's formal dining. Long tables filled with pack members of all ranks, conversations flowing as freely as the ale. Luna found herself seated between a young scout named Tam and a grizzled weapons master called Brick, both eager to share gossip and steal food from her overladen plate. Is it true you answered the Alpha's moon call? Tam asked with the fearlessness of youth. Conversation around them quieted. Everyone suddenly very interested in their meals while obviously listening. Yes, Luna said simply. But that means Tam's eyes widened. The soul bond, you're compatible for the true mate connection. Luna's fork paused halfway to her mouth. The what? Don't fill her head with romantic nonsense. Brick grumbled, but his eyes crinkled with amusement. The pup's talking about old folklore. It's not folklore, Nix protested from across the table. The soul bond is real. When an alpha calls to the moon in true loneliness, only their destined mate can answer. It's why Fenris's call has gone unanswered for years. He wasn't calling to just anyone. Luna risked a glance at Fenris, seated at the high table but clearly listening. His expression remained neutral, but she caught the tension in his shoulders. That's ridiculous, she said firmly. I answered because it seemed polite. Nothing more. Several pack members exchanged knowing looks that made her want to throw bread at them. After dinner, she escaped to the battlements, needing air and space to process the day's revelations. The northern lights danced across the sky, painting the mountains in ethereal greens and purples. They mean well. Fenris joined her at the wall, maintaining careful distance. The pack hasn't had much cause for joy recently. Your presence gives them hope. Hope for what? Change, healing, a future that isn't just survival. He paused. The soul bond talk makes you uncomfortable. It's a fairy tale. Mystical connections and destined mates that's not real. No? He turned to study her. Then how do you explain the way we fight together? The way your wolf recognizes mine, despite years of separation? Training, muscle memory, and the fact that you're the only person in a decade who hasn't flinched from my scars? That's just basic courtesy. Luna. Her true name on his lips silenced her protests. I'm not saying we're mystically bound or fated by the moon. Ow. But denying the connection between us serves no one. She wanted to argue, to maintain safe distance. Standing there with him. But standing there with him, watching the lights dance while the pack's warmth still glowed in her chest, she found her resistance crumbling. I'm not ready, she admitted. There's too much I still don't know. About my past, about what happened to my family, about you. Then we wait. His simple acceptance surprised her. The pack has already claimed you as one of ours. The rest can develop as it will. Your pack is very different from Silverpine. This is your pack now, too. He gestured to the citadel, spread below them. If you'll have us. Looking down at the torch-lit courtyards where warriors still trained, where laughter echoed from the great hall, where people had spent their day helping her reclaim her heritage. Luna felt something settle in her chest. Yes, she said softly. I'll have you. She caught herself. The pack. I'll have the pack. His soft laugh suggested he'd heard what she didn't say. But he didn't push, didn't demand more than she could give. They stood together in companionable silence, watching the northern lights paint the sky while below. Their her pack carved out joy in a harsh land. For a woman who'd lost everything twice over, it felt dangerously close to home. Tomorrow, we start searching the archives for information about the massacre, Fenris said eventually. Kes thinks she knows where your mother's journals might be hidden. Power. You don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice carried quiet conviction. Your enemies are mine now. Your quest for truth is mine. That's what pack means. The simplicity of it. The unconditional support undid her more than any grand declaration could have. In Silverpine, everything had been conditional, transactional. Here, pack meant something deeper. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. The truth about that night might be worse than not knowing. I need to know anyway. Then we'll face it together, together. Such a simple word to carry such weight. But standing there with Fenris, surrounded by the warmth of pack, Luna began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was strong enough to handle whatever truth awaited. The archives beneath the Citadel held centuries of secrets. Luna sneezed as dust swirled through the ancient chamber, illuminated by the oil lamp in Fenris's hand. They'd been searching for 3 days, following Elder Kess's cryptic directions to where Luna Blackmoon's journals might be hidden. Your mother was paranoid even by Northern standards, Fenris said, moving aside another stack of moldering records. 7 different hiding spots for one set of journals. Or she knew something worth protecting. Luna countered, running her fingers along the stone walls, searching for the mechanism Kess had described. A soft click rewarded her efforts. A section of wall swung inward, revealing a small chamber lined with preservation runes. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were a dozen leather-bound journals. Luna's hands trembled as she picked up the first one. Her mother's scent still clung faintly to the leather moonflowers and steel, triggering a cascade of sensory memories that left her breathless. Take your time, Fenris said gently. I'll keep watch. She opened to a random page, her mother's elegant script blurring through sudden tears. Luna mastered the 3rd form today. Marcus insists she's too young for weapons training, but she snuck into the armory again. Found her curled up with the practice swords, naming each one, my fierce little moonbeam, always reaching for strength before her time. She wrote about me, Luna whispered. Every page, from what I can see. Fenris had moved closer, offering silent support. Your parents loved you deeply. Luna flipped forward, scanning entries until one made her blood freeze. The treaty. Negotiations with Silverpine grow more tense. Alpha Roderick smiles while his beta Garrett Ironwood Sr. watches us like prey. Something is wrong. I've tripled the border patrols, but I fear we're preparing for the wrong threat. The danger isn't at our borders, it's already inside them. Garrett's father. Luna's voice came out strangled. He was there, part of the negotiations. She kept reading, each entry painting a clearer picture of the weeks before the massacre. Her mother had suspected betrayal, had tried to warn others. But pack law demanded proof, and Silverpine had been careful. Versa Goldmane visited today under the Healer Exchange program. A prodigy, they say, mastering herbs and poisons at barely 15. She asks too many questions about our defenses, our routines. I've assigned guards to shadow her, but Marcus thinks I'm being paranoid. Luna dropped the journal. Versa was there. In our territory. Learning our weaknesses. A long game, Fenris said grimly. Silverpine planning for years, maybe decades. The final entry was dated the night of the massacre. Something's wrong. The sentries haven't reported in. Garrett Ironwood Sr. was supposed to leave this morning, but his scent lingers. I'm taking Luna to the safe room. If something happens to us, let it be known that Silverpine. The entry ended mid-sentence, ink trailing off as if the writer had been interrupted. They came for us that night, Luna said numbly. Garrett's father led them. And versa. She thought of the woman's satisfied smirk as she'd been banished. She knew who I was. Knew and feared what I might remember. There's more. Fenris pulled out a different journal. This one bound in black leather. Your mother wasn't just writing family memories. The black journal contained something else entirely. Intelligence reports, coded messages, references to a network spanning multiple packs. Her mother hadn't just been an Alpha's mate. She'd been a spy master, the Northern Alliance, Luna read. A secret coalition preparing for Goddess above. The plans laid out in careful detail were staggering. Multiple packs working together to resist not just Silverpine but a larger conspiracy. References to human nobles funding territorial wars, to systematic destruction of powerful bloodlines, to a long-term plan for subjugating all wolves under human rule. My grandmother was part of this, Fenris said, recognizing names and codes. That's why she taught your mother those forms. They weren't just combat techniques, they were identification signals. Secret wolves hidden in enemy territories, ready to rise when called. Luna traced the network map. My mother was preparing for war. In clues. A war that ended before it began. The massacre wasn't just about territory. It was about destroying the Alliance leadership. Luna's wolf snarled with sudden understanding. Kill the Blackmoons, scatter the network, maintain the status quo. Footsteps echoed from the main archive. Fenris immediately doused the lamp, pulling Luna behind a stack of crates. They waited in tense silence as the footsteps grew closer. I know you're here, Nyx's voice carried clearly. And you need to see what I found. They emerged cautiously. Nyx stood in the archive entrance, but she wasn't alone. Captain Renna flanked her, along with Elder Kess and 3 wolves Luna didn't recognize. The old network still exists, Kess said without preamble. Scattered, hidden, but alive. We've been waiting for a catalyst. Waiting for a Blackmoon. One of the strangers added. Your mother's bloodline carries more than just a name. It carries oaths sworn by dozens of packs. Luna's head spun. You're telling me there's been a secret alliance waiting 18 years for me to remember who I am? Not just waiting. Renna corrected. Preparing. Building strength in shadows. Your arrival here wasn't chance, it was the moon herself arranging pieces. That's ridiculous, Luna protested, even as puzzle pieces clicked together. I was falsely accused, banished. Were you? Nyx interrupted. Or did Versa overplay her hand? Think about it. She could have killed you quietly, made it look natural. Instead, she orchestrated a public scene that sent you directly to the one place her influence couldn't reach. The one alpha strong enough to protect a Blackmoon heir while she remembered herself, Kess added, giving Fenris a meaningful look. You all knew? Luna turned to Fenris, hurt bleeding into her voice. This whole time? I suspected after our first training session. Knew for certain when you answered my call. His expression was steady, unapologetic. But knowing and trusting are different things. You had to choose us freely. So everything, the kindness, the acceptance, the pack bonds, all manipulation? No. Renna stepped forward, sincerity plain on her scarred features. The pack's warmth was real. We just also happened to be rebels awaiting our moment. Luna wanted to rage at the deception, but looking at their faces, hopeful, determined, patient, she found only understanding. These wolves had kept faith for 18 years, waiting in shadows while tyrants prospered. Show me, she said finally. Show me the real network. What followed was a revelation that dwarfed even her recovered memories. Hidden throughout the northern packs were survivors from the purges. Blackmoon guards who'd been away during the massacre, Alliance members who'd gone underground, children of murdered resistors, raised on carefully preserved truth. Silverpine wasn't the only pack to benefit from orchestrated massacres, a scarred wolf named Flint explained. The pattern repeated across territories, always blamed on border disputes or resource conflicts, but always targeting Alliance bloodlines. 8. The human nobles fund it, another added. Weak, divided packs are easier to control than united ones. And now? Luna asked, though she suspected the answer. Now we have what we've lacked. A legitimate heir, with claim to stolen territories. A symbol to rally behind. Kess smiled, years dropping from her weathered features. Your mother would be proud. I'm not my mother. I don't have her training, her knowledge. But you have something she didn't, Fenris interjected. You have me. The simple declaration silenced the room. When he continued, his voice carried the authority that had united the northern packs. The Citadel's strength, combined with the Alliance network. My public power supporting her legitimate claims. Together, We represent something Silverpine and their human masters never prepared for unity between the savage north and noble bloodlines. Cloud. The soul-bonded pair. Nyx breathed. A true alpha and the last black moon. The moon herself couldn't have crafted better symbols. We're not. Luna began. Aren't you? Elder Kess challenged. You answered his call. You fight as one. Your wolves recognize each other across years of separation. Call it what you will, but power recognizes power. Luna met Fenris's gaze, seeing her own swirling emotions reflected there. The attraction she'd been fighting. The trust that had grown despite everything. The way being near him felt like coming home. They'll come for us, she said. Silverpine, their allies, the human nobles, they'll try to destroy us before we can threaten them. Yes. Fenris's smile was all predator. Let them come. Looking around the room at scarred survivors and patient rebels, at the alpha who'd protected her without demanding anything in return, Luna made her choice. Not the desperate acceptance of a cornered wolf, but the deliberate commitment of a leader, accepting her birthright. Then we'd better be ready, she said. Tell me everything about our enemies, and start calling in the old oaths. If they wanted war 18 years ago, they're about to get it. The change in the room was electric, hope transforming into purpose, patience into preparation. And at the center of it all, two wolves who'd found each other through betrayal and loss stood ready to reshape the world that had tried to break them. The alliance had its catalyst. Now it was time to see what fires they could ignite. The attack came at dawn, 3 weeks after Luna had accepted her birthright. She woke to the sound of howling, not the musical calls of her pack, but the discordant chorus of invasion. They're here. Fenris burst through her door, fully armed. Silverpine's forces, plus 2 other packs. The human soldiers are holding back, waiting to see if wolves will slaughter wolves for them. Luna rolled from bed, her new fighting leathers already becoming second nature. How did they breach our defenses? Betrayal. His expression was stone. Someone inside fed them our patrol routes. They raced through corridors filling with smoke and the sounds of battle. In the courtyard, Northern warriors clashed with invaders in brutal combat. Luna spotted Garrett's distinctive silver armor in the melee, cutting through defenders with mechanical precision. Find the traitor, Fenris commanded before plunging into battle. The pack needs its alpha pair intact. Alpha pair. Even now, the word sent warmth through her chest. Over the past weeks, they'd danced around the growing bond between them, neither willing to fully acknowledge what everyone else saw clearly. Luna forced herself to think strategically. Who had access to patrol schedules? Who'd been asking subtle questions? The answer hit her with sickening clarity. She found Tam, the young scout who'd asked about soul bonds at dinner, in the map room. He was stuffing documents into a satchel, his hands shaking. "Oh, Luna!" He spun, trying for innocence. "I was securing the sensitive materials." "Stop." She drew her blade. "How much did they pay you?" His facade crumbled. "They have my sister. Silverpine took her months ago. They said if I helped, they'd release her." "And you believed them?" "What choice did I have?" Tears streamed down his young face. "She's only 12. I couldn't." The door exploded inward. Versa stood there, no longer playing the innocent healer, backed by 2 massive warriors. "Hello, Luna. Or should I say, last of the Blackmoons. You knew all along. From the moment you arrived in Silverpine." Versa's smile was sharp. "Your scent was masked by trauma, but certain markers can't be hidden from someone who knows what to look for. I was there when your mother died, you know, helped prepare the poisons that weakened their defenses." Rage flooded Luna's system, her wolf howling for blood. But Versa wasn't done. "Poor Theron never knew what I was doing. So easy to manipulate. So desperate for a mate who wouldn't challenge him. You were an inconvenience, so I removed you." She tilted her head. "Though sending you here was a miscalculation. I expected Fenris to kill you, not protect you." "That's your weakness," Luna said, shifting her stance for combat. You understand manipulation but not loyalty. But loyalty? Versa laughed. Like young Tam's loyalty? Or perhaps you mean the loyalty of the 30 servants we've already turned? Your precious alliance has more holes than fabric. Luna's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. And yet you're here, personally. That speaks of desperation. Insurance. Versa gestured to her warriors. Kill the Blackmoon heir, and the alliance dies with her. Simple solutions are often best. The fight was brutal. Versa's warriors were skilled, and she herself proved deadlier than expected. Poison-coated blades whistled through air as Luna fought for her life. Behind her, Tam cowered, sobbing apologies she had no time to acknowledge. She took down one warrior with a throat strike, but the second caught her shoulder, spinning her into Versa's range. The poisoned blade sliced across her ribs, not deep, but enough to introduce toxins to her blood. Mother's recipe, Versa said conversationally as Luna staggered. Slow acting but irreversible. You have perhaps an hour before paralysis sets in. But Luna's vision blurred, but she forced herself to keep fighting. The second warrior fell to her desperate strike, leaving only Versa. You're swaying, Versa observed. The poison works quickly on Blackmoon blood. Your mother barely lasted 30 minutes. My mother was ambushed in her sleep, Luna snarled. I'm not. She lunged, using every technique her body remembered. Versa was skilled but had relied too much on her warriors. In single combat, Luna's desperate fury gave her the edge. The ending came suddenly. Versa overextended on a strike, expecting Luna to be slower from the poison. Instead, Luna flowed inside her guard, driving her blade between ribs with surgical precision. Impossible. Versa gasped, blood frothing her lips. You forgot something, Luna said quietly. I'm not just a Blackmoon, I'm Pack now, and Northern wolves have been building poison resistance for generations. Versa died with disbelief in her eyes. Luna turned to find Tam still crouched in the corner. Your sister's already dead, she told him bluntly. Silverpine doesn't keep bargains. His broken wail followed her as she staggered toward the courtyard, fighting the poison with every step. The battle still raged, but the tide was turning. Fenris fought like a force of nature, his massive form tearing through enemies. Then she saw Garrett notice her, saw him break from his unit to intercept. Her former love looked exactly as she remembered, handsome, strong, utterly confident in his superiority. Kira, he called, using her false name. I've come to save you from this monster. Save me? She laughed, the sound harsh. Like you saved me from false accusations? I know the truth now. Versa confessed her deception. I'm here to bring you home. Home? The poison made her sway, but anger kept her upright. To the pack that murdered my family? His face went white. What lies has he told you? No lies. Just truth you never bothered to learn. She raised her blade despite trembling muscles. I am Luna Blackmoon. Power. Your father led the massacre that killed my parents. And you. She smiled coldly. You were just a convenience until Versa returned. Both know it. I loved you. You loved having an Omega grateful for your attention, power. Someone who'd never challenge you, never ask for more than scraps. The poison burned through her veins, but clarity had never been sharper. I was never your mate, just a placeholder. He attacked then, pride overcoming whatever had brought him here. But Luna had trained with Fenris, learned from the best warriors in the north. Even poisoned, she was no longer the desperate Omega he'd discarded. Their blades met in a shower of sparks. He was stronger, but she was smarter. He fought with technique, she with purpose. When he pressed his advantage, she remembered Fenris's lessons about using an opponent's strength against them. The opening came when Garrett overcommitted to a power strike. Luna flowed aside, her blade finding the gap in his armor. He fell to his knees, shock replacing arrogance. You were supposed to be weak, he gasped. I was never weak, just unseen. She left him there, knowing the gut wound would take time but was surely fatal. The courtyard spun around her. The poison was winning despite her resistance. She needed to find Fenris. Needed to. She collapsed near the fountain, her body finally betraying her. Around her, the battle was ending. Silverpine's forces retreated, their leaders dead or dying. But victory felt hollow as darkness crept across her vision. Luna. Fenris's voice seemed to come from far away. Then his arms were around her, his scarred face twisted with fear she'd never seen before. No. No. You stay with me. Poison. She managed. Versa. Mother's recipe. He roared orders she couldn't follow, the world fading to distant echoes. But through it all, she felt his presence, heard his voice demanding she fight, demanding she stay. I'm sorry, she thought as darkness claimed her. We never got our chance. The last thing she felt was wetness on her face. Tears, she realized. The scarred alpha was crying for her. Then nothing. Luna floated in darkness that tasted of moonflowers and ash. Voices drifted through the void, some familiar, others strange. Her mother's laugh, her father's war cry. The whispers of pack members long dead. Not yet, little moon, her mother's voice echoed. Your hunt isn't finished. Pain dragged her back toward consciousness. Her body was a symphony of agony, poison and healing magic warring in her veins. But beneath it all, she felt something else. A tether, golden and warm, pulling her toward life. 3 days. The fever should have broken by now. Elder Kess. Luna tried to open her eyes but found them too heavy. She's fighting. That was Fenris, his voice rough with exhaustion. I can feel her. The soul bond. Nyx, sounding odd. You're keeping her anchored. I'm keeping her alive. His hand tightened around hers. And when she wakes, we're having a long conversation about her tendency towards self-sacrifice. When she wakes, Kess said gently, you might want to tell her the rest. She'll be furious. She'll be alive to be furious? Luna forced her eyes open, the effort monumental. The world swam into focus. Slowly she was in an unfamiliar room, filled with healing herbs and soft light. Fenris sat beside her bed, looking haggard. His scarred face was gaunt with worry, his usual immaculate appearance replaced by rumpled clothes and shadowed eyes. What rest? Her voice came out as a croak. His head snapped up, relief flooding his features. Luna, thank the moon. What rest? She insisted. He helped her sip water before answering. The soul bond. To save you, I had to. He paused, visibly gathering courage. I completed it. Without your permission. You're my mate now, officially and irrevocably. She should be angry, furious, even. He'd taken the choice from her, bound them together without consent. But looking at him, this powerful alpha who'd spent 3 days pouring his own life force into keeping her alive, she found only warmth. You saved me. You saved yourself. I just gave you strength to do it. He studied her face. Are you angry? Ask me when I don't feel like I've been trampled by horses. His laugh was shaky with relief. The poison is neutralized, but you'll be weak for days. Kess has opinions about your recovery regime. I'm sure she does. Luna tried to sit up, gasping as the world spun. The battle is won. Silverpine's forces are scattered. Garrett is dead, along with Versa. The other packs are reconsidering their allegiances. His expression darkened. We lost 12 warriors. Good wolves who died protecting their home. Tam, in custody. He'll face pack justice, but given his age and the circumstances. Fenris shrugged. Mercy has its place. Luna absorbed this, then asked the question burning in her chest. What happens now? Now? Rena appeared in the doorway, grinning broadly. Now we have a ceremony to plan. The North hasn't seen a true mate bonding in decades. The pack is beside itself with excitement, power. But first, Elder Kess pushed past the captain. You heal properly. No arguments. I've seen what happens when warriors ignore poison recovery, and it's not pretty. What followed were days of frustrating inactivity. Luna, used to constant motion, chafed at the restrictions. Pack rallied around her with touching dedication. Warriors she'd trained with brought small gifts, weapon oil, leather conditioning, battle trophies. Kitchen staff competed to create broths that might tempt her appetite. Permit it. Even young Tam, hollow-eyed with grief and guilt, was permitted to bring apology flowers under guard. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he whispered. "No," Luna agreed. "But you might earn it. The North believes in second chances for those who prove themselves." Fenris rarely left her side, conducting pack business from her recovery room. Watching him work, mediating disputes, planning defenses, managing supplies, Luna saw the true scope of what he'd built. Not just a powerful pack, but a functioning society that protected its weakest members while demanding excellence from its strongest. "You're staring," he said without looking up from correspondence. "I'm learning." She shifted against the pillows. "You're nothing like the monster they painted you as." "I am exactly the monster they painted." He set aside his letters, meeting her gaze. "I killed my way to power. I show no mercy to enemies. I rule through strength and fear when necessary. And yet your pack loves you. They respect me. Love." He touched his scarred face unconsciously. "Love requires a gentleness I lost long ago." "Tell me." "It wasn't a request. You know my story. Time to share yours." He was quiet so long she thought he'd refuse. Then, slowly, he began. "I was 20 when the avalanche hit our hunting party. Rival pack sabotage, though we couldn't prove it. My parents, my siblings, most of our strongest wolves, buried in moments." His voice was steady, but she saw the old pain in his eyes. "I dug for 3 days. Found them all eventually. Too late." Luna reached for his hand, offering silent comfort. "The burns came later. Challenge fights for pack leadership. The rival alpha thought fire would give him an edge." Fenris smiled grimly. "He was wrong. I killed him with half my face melting. Killed his seconds when they tried to claim victory. Kept killing until no one dared challenge. The scars could be healed, partially. I choose to keep them. They remind everyone, including me, what I'm capable of. What I'll do to protect what's mine. And now I'm yours." The words should have felt like chains. Instead, they settled in her chest like truth. "As I'm yours." He brought her hand to his lips, the gesture achingly gentle. "The bond goes both ways. Your battles are mine. Your quest for justice becomes our quest. Pie." Speaking of which, Nyx burst in without knocking, waving papers. "The Alliance networks are activating. Word of Luna's survival, and your mating has spread like wildfire. 3 more packs have declared for us, and the human nobles are getting nervous." "Good." Luna struggled upright despite Kess's glare. "What's our next move?" "You heal," Fenris said firmly. "Then we make them all pay for 18 years of blood and betrayal." But Luna was already thinking beyond revenge. Looking around the room at these wolves who'd become family, at the mate who'd bound himself to her without hesitation, she saw possibility. "Not just pay," she said, "change. The system that allowed the massacres, the human nobles pulling strings, the packs too weak or corrupted to resist it all needs to burn." "Burn and be rebuilt," Fenris agreed. "With you as its architect." "Us," she corrected. "I might be the last Black Moon, but you're the one who united the North. Together. Together we're unstoppable." Nyx bounced with excitement. The prophecies were right. "When the lost moon rises with the scarred sun, the old ways shall crumble like—" "There's a prophecy?" Luna interrupted, alarmed. "Several, actually," Kess said dryly. "But let's focus on healing before we tackle destiny, shall we?" Despite her protests, they were right. Luna spent another week recovering, but she used the time wisely. Plans formed, alliances solidified, and slowly, the shape of revolution emerged. The turning point, when it came, arrived in the form of an unexpected visitor. "Your Majesty," the guard announced formally. "Prince Roderick of Silverpine requests audience." Luna tensed. Theron's younger brother, the new Alpha, Fenris corrected. With his father and brother dead, he inherits. They received him in the throne room. Luna finally strong enough to stand beside Fenris as his acknowledged mate. Roderick looked nothing like his brother. Where Theron had been conventionally handsome, Roderick was sharp. Retry. Continue. Edit. Featured and lean, with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. I come to offer terms, he said without preamble. Terms? Fenris's voice could have frozen flame. Your pack attacked us. Fenris, my father's pack, my brother's war. Roderick met their gazes steadily. I know what was done to the Blackmoons. I know my family's role in the massacres. I cannot undo the past, but I can offer the future. Power. Speak, Luna commanded. Alliance. Silverpine's strength added to yours. Our intelligence networks, our southern connections, our resources. He paused. And the names of every human noble who funded the territorial wars. In exchange for? Clemency for my people. They followed orders, believed lies. Grant them the chance to serve truth instead. Luna exchanged glances with Fenris. This could be trap or opportunity. You would betray your human masters? She asked. Roderick smiled thinly. Lady Luna, I would betray the moon herself to prevent more massacres. My father was a monster. My brother, a fool. I prefer to be neither. Prove it, Fenris demanded. One name, one location. Give us a victory to seal your proposed alliance. Duke Garrett Montrose, the primary funding source. He'll be at his hunting lodge next week with minimal guards, believing himself safe. Roderick pulled out a map. Everything you need is here. Looking at the information, Luna felt the tide turning. Not just resistance anymore, but genuine revolution. If this is a trap, she began. Then kill me slowly, Roderick finished. But it's not. Some of us have been waiting for someone strong enough to change things. You're that someone. Both of you. After he left, Fenris pulled Luna close. Trust him? Trust but verify. She studied the map. But if he's sincere, then we have the beginning of the end for the old ways. Luna smiled, all teeth and promise. Good. I'm tired of reacting. Time to go hunting. The recovery was complete. The alliances were forming. And for the first time since waking at Silverpine's borders with no memories, Luna knew exactly who she was and what she was meant to do. The lost moon had risen indeed, and with her scarred son beside her, she would remake the world. Duke Garrett Montrose's hunting lodge squatted in the forest like a bloated tick, all ornate excess and minimal defense. Luna crouched in the underbrush, watching guards patrol with lazy confidence. Beside her, Fenris was a solid presence, their bond humming with shared anticipation. Roderick's intelligence was accurate. Rena whispered from their left. 12 guards, all human. The Duke's in the main hall with 3 advisors. Too easy, Luna muttered. Something felt wrong, a prickling at the base of her skull that made her wolf restless. Agreed. Fenris scanned the perimeter again. But we're committed now. They'd brought a strike force of 20 their best warriors, moving silent as shadows through the forest. Plan was simple. Capture Montrose alive. Extract information about the noble conspiracy. Use him to unravel the network that had funded decades of wolf massacres. Luna gave the signal. Warriors flowed from the forest like dark water, overwhelming perimeter guards before alarms could sound. She and Fenris led the charge into the lodge proper, their movements perfectly synchronized through their mate bond. The main hall erupted in chaos. Guards scrambled for weapons, while Montrose's advisors fled toward back exits, only to find Rena's team waiting. The Duke himself? A soft man gone to fat from easy living, cowered behind an overturned table. Surrender, Fenris commanded, his presence filling the room. You're outnumbered and outmatched. That's when Luna smelled it. Wolfsbane, silver. And underneath, something worse, the acrid stench of alchemical fire. It's a trap, she roared, but too late. The floor exploded. Hidden caches of alchemical compounds ignited in sequence. turning the lodge into an inferno. Through the smoke and flames, more guards poured in, not the lazy 12 they'd counted, but scores of professional soldiers armed with silver weapons. Predictable wolves. Montrose wheezed through the smoke, no longer cowering. Prince Roderick warned us you'd come if the bait was right. Betrayal. Again. Luna's rage burned hotter than the flames as she fought through waves of soldiers. But wait, something in Montrose's phrasing caught her attention. Not Roderick told us, but warned us. The roof! Nyx screamed from somewhere in the chaos. It's coming down! Luna looked up to see support beams consumed by unnatural fire. They had moments before the entire structure collapsed. Everyone out! Fenris commanded. But the exits were blocked. Soldiers with crossbows turned the doorways into killing fields. Luna watched 2 of their warriors fall, silver bolts sprouting from their chests. There was only one way. Luna saw it with crystal clarity, the choice that would save their people. Fenris, she called, their eyes meeting across the carnage. In that glance, she poured everything through their bond, love, regret, determination. No. He understood immediately, fighting toward her. Luna, no. She was already moving. The main support beam groaned above them, ready to fall. When it did, it would crush half their forces. Unless... Luna leaped, her wolf form erupting midair. Jaws capable of crushing bone clamped onto the burning beam. Power. The agony was immediate, fire searing her mouth, smoke choking her lungs. But she held on, using her body to redirect the beam's fall. Ensnaring the body, Karis and Maricus, and her potted taluses profaned her had. It crashed down away from their people, but took her with it. She heard Fenris roar her name as burning timber crushed her beneath its weight. Pain became her entire world, fire, crushing weight, the taste of char and blood. But her sacrifice had opened a path. Their warriors surged through the gap she'd created, overwhelming the soldiers at that exit. She felt them escaping through the bond, felt Fenris's anguish as he fought between saving their people and saving her. Go, she pushed through their connection. Lead them. Through the smoke and flame, she saw something that changed everything. Duke Montrose, believing victory assured, had grown careless. Papers, spilled from his coat, not just any papers, but documents bearing multiple noble seals. With the last of her strength, Luna shifted back to human form and grabbed them. The evidence they'd come for, delivered by the Duke's own arrogance. Luna. Fenris had fought his way back, heedless of the collapsing structure. His massive strength lifted the beam enough for her to crawl free, though her body screamed in protest. Evidence, she gasped, shoving the papers at him. Get it out, I'm not leaving you. The command in her voice. The command in her voice shocked him enough to move. He scooped her into his arms, racing for the exit as the lodge collapsed behind them. They burst into clean air, just as the structure imploded. Luna's vision swam, but she stayed conscious long enough to hear Rena's report. Montrose is dead, crushed in the collapse. But we have prisoners, and whatever documents you grabbed. Good, Luna whispered before darkness claimed her. This time, she knew she'd wake. The bond with Fenris burned bright and strong, anchoring her to life and love and purpose. As unconsciousness took her, one thought echoed clear. Roderick's warning had saved them. He'd said Montrose would have minimal guards, ensuring they'd come. But he'd warned the Duke they were coming, ensuring a trap that would expose the noble conspiracy when Montrose grew overconfident. The younger Silverpine Prince played a deeper game than anyone suspected. Luna woke to find herself in a tent, the sounds of many voices carrying from outside. Her body ached but functioned, her burns already healing thanks to her wolf's regeneration and Fenris's power flowing through their bond. 3 days this time, Fenris said from beside her cot. You're getting better at not dying. Practice makes perfect. She struggled to sit up, accepting his steadying arm. The documents? Changed everything. His expression was grim but satisfied. 20 years of correspondence between nobles, plans for controlling pack territories, financial records of bribes and assassinations. Your grab gave us the entire conspiracy. And Roderick sent a message, publicly denounced his father's crimes, and pledged Silverpine's resources to the restoration. Fenris studied her carefully. He orchestrated the trap, you know. Made sure Montrose would be overconfident, would bring the evidence we needed. I figured that out while burning. Luna swung her legs over the cot's edge. Where are we? The neutral grounds. Every major pack and half the human nobility are gathering. Word of Montrose's documents spread like wildfire. He helped her stand. They're waiting for you. For us, she corrected. The ancient amphitheater was packed beyond capacity. Wolves and humans filled every available space, the tension palpable. At the center, a familiar figure stood with aged dignity, Marcus Blackmoon, Luna's father, very much alive. Luna's world tilted. Fenris steadied her as her father's eyes. Her eyes found her across the distance. "Hello, little moon," Marcus called, his voice carrying despite its roughness. "I'm sorry I'm late." The crowd parted as Luna approached, supported by Fenris but walking on her own power. When she reached her father, she stopped, searching his scarred face. How? Taken prisoner instead of killed, kept alive as leverage they never needed to use. His smile was bitter. "Prince Roderick found me in his father's dungeons. Said my daughter would need all the allies she could get." Luna embraced him carefully, feeling bones too close to skin, seeing years of torment in his bearing. But he was alive. Her family wasn't entirely gone. "Now," Marcus said, turning to address the assembly, "let's discuss the truth everyone's avoided for 20 years." What followed was a systematic destruction of every comfortable lie both species had told themselves. Using Montrose's documents and witness testimonies, they painted a picture of manipulation that spanned generations. The territorial wars weren't about species supremacy, Marcus explained. They were about profit. A small group of human nobles and corrupted wolves working together to keep us all at each other's throats while they reaped the benefits. The sterilization programs, the massacres, the escalating violence, all orchestrated to prevent what we're doing right now, uniting. Luna held up document after document. Every tragedy that drove us apart made them richer. Lies. Baron Henrik of the eastern provinces stood. Wolf propaganda. Your signature. Luna interrupted, showing a contract. Paying for silver weapons used in the Riverside massacre. Your son died in the retaliation you funded. The Baron collapsed, the fight leaving him as he recognized his own seal. "We've all been fools," Alpha Roderick said, stepping forward. "My father included," playing into their hands. "Perpetuating cycles of vengeance that served only our mutual enemies," quoted. "Pretty words," a scarred wolf called out. "But blood has been spilled. My mate died in your father's raids. How do we simply forgive?" "You don't," Luna said firmly. "But you choose. Continue killing each other while hidden puppeteers laugh, or unite against those who orchestrated our pain." "Under whose rule?" demanded a human duchess. "Under shared rule." Fenris spoke for the first time. "The High Council reborn. 3 wolves, 3 humans, 1 neutral arbiter. As it was in the past, but better." "The old council was hereditary," Luna added. "Ours will be elected. The old laws favored nobility. Ours will protect all." "And who leads this miraculous council initially?" Luna and Fenris exchanged glances. Those who exposed the truth. Who lost everything to lies but chose justice over vengeance. "Process. We'll serve 1 term, then step down for elected successors." "But process?" "A black moon and the scarred king," someone murmured. "The lost moon and broken sun made whole." "Prophecy," Elder Kess intoned, having appeared at the amphitheater's edge. "When the lost moon rises with the scarred sun. When enemies become allies, and truth conquers comfortable lies, then shall the old ways crumble and justice bloom from ashes." One by one, representatives stood, some reluctant, others eager, but all recognizing the alternative was endless war serving only their hidden enemies. "Silverpine pledges," Roderick declared. "The Northern Citadel pledges," Rena added. "The eastern provinces." Pledge, Baron Henrik managed, tears streaming down his face. As the sun set over the neutral grounds, the pledge spread through the assembly. Not unanimous, some stormed out rather than accept change. But enough. More than enough. The High Council is reborn, Marcus announced, his voice growing stronger. May we learn from our parents' mistakes and build something worthy of our children's futures. The crowd dispersed slowly, former enemies beginning tentative conversations. Luna noticed Roderick approaching and tensed, but he kept his distance, offering only a nod of acknowledgement. Thank you, she called out, for the warning, for my father. Thank you for being strong enough to use them, he replied before disappearing into the crowd. That night, in a private chamber overlooking the amphitheater, Luna stood with Fenris and her father, the weight of what they'd accomplished, settling over them. It won't be easy, Marcus warned. Generations of hate don't die in a day. No, Fenris agreed. But they can die, if we're strong enough to nurture something better. Together, Luna added, taking both their hands. All of us, together. As the moon rose full and silver and powerful, Luna felt her mother's presence like a whisper on the wind. Power. The plan Luna Blackmoon had died for was finally bearing fruit, though in ways she never could have imagined. The revolution was complete. The real work was just beginning. 6 months after the Neutral Grounds Assembly, the new High Council convened in the restored Hall of Unity. Luna stood before the great window, watching delegates arrive from every corner of the realm. Wolves and humans mingled in the courtyard below, still cautious, but no longer openly hostile. Nervous? Fenris joined her, his reflection merging with hers in the glass. Terrified, she admitted. Fighting was simpler than this. But this is what we fought for. He adjusted the silver circlet that marked her as High Counselor. Peace is harder than war, but infinitely more worthwhile. The great hall filled as the hour approached. The new High Council structure had already proven itself: 3 wolves, 3 humans, working together to address centuries of division. Luna and Fenris served alongside Elder Kess for the wolves, while Roderick had surprisingly been elected to represent humans, along with Baron Henrik's daughter Ilara and a merchant named Tom, who'd lost family on both sides. Citizens of the United Territories. Luna began, her voice carrying to every corner. We gather not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals building a shared future. The ceremony marking the council's first successful term was deliberately brief. They'd learned that actions mattered more than words. Instead, they moved directly to the day's real purpose, addressing the integration settlements that had become their greatest success. Report, Fenris commanded gently. Ilara stood, her smile genuine. 3,000 relocated families, both wolf and human. Not a single violent incident in 2 months. The children. Her voice caught. The children play together, as if the last 20 years never happened. Because for them, it didn't. Elder Kess observed. They'll grow up in the world we're building, not the one we destroyed. Speaking of which, Luna said, unable to hide her grin, Fenris and I have an announcement. She placed her hand over her still flat stomach, feeling the tiny spark of life growing within. Fenris's hand covered hers, their mate bond singing with shared joy. The first of the new generation, she said simply. The hall erupted in celebration. Not just for the coming pup, but for what it represented: a future where a Blackmoon heir and a Northern warrior's child would know only unity, not division. This child will never know what we knew, Fenris murmured in her ear. Never experience that loss, that betrayal. None of them will, Luna replied firmly. We'll make sure of it. Marcus approached, moving slowly but steadily. His recovery had been remarkable, his presence a constant reminder that even the deepest wounds could heal. Your mother would be so proud, he said, embracing them both. She dreamed of unity. You've made it reality. We've started, Luna corrected. The work continues every day. As if to prove her point, a commotion arose near the hall's entrance. A young wolf, barely 16, was arguing with guards, a human girl clinging to his arm. Please, the wolf begged. We need the council's protection. Our families. Let them in, Luna commanded. The young couple approached nervously. Their story was depressingly familiar. Wolf boy, human girl, families opposed to their bond. But now, instead of tragedy, there was hope. The law protects your choice, Fenris told them. Your families will accept it or face consequences. But where will we live? The girl asked. Neither pack nor village wants us. In the integration settlements, Roderick suggested. Young couples like you are building something new there. Not wolf communities or human towns, but something between. Luna watched the fear leave their faces, replaced by tentative hope. This was what they'd built, not just laws, but possibilities. And the rest of the day proceeded with the mundane but vital work of governance. Trade disputes resolved with both species' needs considered. Water rights negotiated fairly. Education systems that taught both histories, both strengths. Boring, Nix complained during a break. Where's the drama, the battles, the epic confrontations? Hopefully gone forever, Luna replied. Boring means we're succeeding. That evening, they hosted the first Unity Festival. The courtyard, filled with mixed families, children who shifted forms as easily as they changed games, adults slowly learning that former enemies could become friends. Luna stood with Fenris on the balcony, watching a wolf pup and human child share honey cakes, while their parents, former soldiers on opposite sides, discussed crop rotation. Look at them, she murmured. Natural as breathing. Because we made it possible. His arms wrapped around her, hands resting protectively over their growing child. Every hard choice, every sacrifice, led to this. No regrets? None. You? She thought of her journey from rejected Omega to honored queen, from lost and alone to surrounded by love and purpose. The scars remained, but they'd become part of her strength. I regret the pain necessary to get here, she said finally, but not the destination. A familiar howl rose from the courtyard, not mournful like that first night, but joyful. Other voices joined it, wolf and human throats, creating a harmony their parents' generation could never have imagined. They're calling us, Fenris observed. Then let's answer. Together they descended to join their people, not as rulers above subjects, but as members of a community building something unprecedented. As the festival continued around them, Luna felt the future they'd sacrificed for finally becoming present, in laughter shared across species lines, in children who'd never know the weight of inherited hatred, in the life growing within her, product of a love that transcended every boundary their world had tried to enforce. Marcus found her in the crowd, tears streaming down his weathered face. What is it? She asked, concerned. Joy, he said simply. Pure joy. Your mother, she dreamed but never believed. You believed and made it real. The moon rose full and bright above them, not lost, not scarred, but whole and shining with promise. Luna raised her voice in a howl of celebration, quickly joined by every throat in the courtyard. The sound rose to the stars, carrying a simple message. We survived. We united. We chose love over fear. And in that choice, they'd found their new dawn. As the night deepened and the celebration continued, Luna stood surrounded by those she loved, her mate, her father, her pack that included both species. Her hand rested on her stomach, protecting the future growing within. She'd been rejected, sold, and nearly broken, but in losing everything, she'd found her true self. In being sold to a monster, she'd discovered her soulmate. In accepting her painful heritage, she'd helped forge a better world. The lost moon had risen indeed, and with her scarred son beside her, she'd light the way for generations to come. The story of the rejected Omega who became a queen, of the scarred Alpha who learned to love, and of two species who chose unity over comfortable hatred, passed into legend. But in the integration settlements, in the halls of shared power, in the laughter of children who knew no division, their legacy lived on proof that even the deepest wounds could heal, and the most bitter enemies could become the strongest allies.